Welcome to this episode of Wanderlust Solo Women Travel Unscripted. Real women, real stories, real journeys, and no filter. Join Gina, your host, to share the experiences and stories of solo female travelers and advocates from all over the world, with a mission to empower women of all ages, backgrounds, and life stages to embrace solo female travel with confidence and enthusiasm, while being authentic and real, unscripted. Confronting the challenges and apprehensions many women face when considering solo adventures, providing inspiration to break through those barriers. Sharing how life transitions, loss, and trauma can lead to amazing experiences, rediscovery, and life journeys. The good, the bad, and the ugly of authentic and honest travel. So let's throw out the script, get comfy, and jump right into this episode.
Joining me is Julieta Duvall. She is a soulful rebel and grounded guide for individuals and families dismantling systems that no longer serve them. A dedicated mum, entrepreneur, and seasoned flight travel attendant of nearly 20 years, Julieta embodies a free-spirited, nomadic lifestyle, often living out of a suitcase while inspiring others to embrace authenticity and transformational change. She empowers people to live with rhythm, trust, and unapologetic truth. In this fun and insightful conversation, we cover the role of human design as a blueprint for understanding your energy, decision-making, and travel preferences. So put your seat upright and tray table away as we take off. Welcome everyone to Wanderlust Solo Women Travel Unscripted, and I'm so excited to have our guest Julieta. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Gina. Thank you so much.
I'm super excited actually for this episode because we've actually been chatting a little bit off air and we've been having some real laughs. You've got lots of stories, but I'll dive straight into our signature Pass the Parcel question. So for listeners that are new, this is a question. A guest from a previous episode ends it with a question for another guest. So I never know what these questions are, but it's quite a cool way to sort of lead into different conversations. So your question from our previous guest is, was there ever a moment where you decided to finally take your first solo trip? And what happened in that moment?
Oh my God, yeah. So this was when I turned 30. In astrology, people call it your Saturn return. And I was having the hardest time in my life. I felt that I was like flying away from reality. Like I felt like people were doing the things, they wanted to grow, they wanted to have better jobs. And I just felt so disconnected from that goal of just like hustling and rushing through things. So I was already in the airline industry. I had been for quite a few years. That was 2000, my son was born in 2014. So this was like 2013. This was like middle of August, middle of the year, because it was for my birthday. So 2013, I was already flying as, like working as a flight attendant. So I'd been traveling a lot. So I just decided to go to Japan because to me, it felt like it was the place where I could actually hear my soul. It felt quiet. I didn't want to go to a beach or a resort. I just needed some place that could ground me into values, into what it meant to be in this world. I don't know. So Japan came to me and I did. My husband was really supportive. We went together to get a backpack. I was trying to do the backpack thing. I am not please know, I am not a backpack person, but I did. We went to the store. He helped me pick shoes thinking that I was going to hike. Of course I did not, but he was so sweet about it. I think he was trying to relate to what I was going through because he also had a hard time. We both did when we turned 30. And there's a specific human design piece that I think that was related to. But we'll talk about that at another time. But it was just hard. And I left and I flew to Japan. I spent more time in the airplane than I did actually in Japan, which was so mean. But it felt like it grounded me. I visited some museums, which I love. Back then I didn't have children yet, but there was this movie called Hachiko, which is Richard Gere. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So Hachiko represents the loyalty between man and dog. And it's an amazing story. It's a loyalty. And to me, felt like I was missing values in my life. Like I was missing that. And I was just so disconnected, from life. So I did that. And I came back and, life changed. I was okay, but my husband and I kind of slowed down a little bit. So it grounded me. So it was a very powerful trip for me. So, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and I can relate, like, I think I nearly had a mental breakdown when I turned 30. It was just such
Yes.
a it was really an emotional for me, it was a really emotional time, and like I said, I don't think I could put a name at the time, I couldn't put a name to what
No.
I was feeling, but
Yes.
I totally relate. It was just like, "Hmm." A bit like you said, I just, am I on the right path? And why am I
Yes.
not doing this? And I felt a little bit lost, I suppose.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, that's exactly how I felt. I felt lost and I felt like I was like, I call it glitching out. Like I felt like I was in a different reality. I was like, is this my life? Is it me? Is there something wrong with me? Because
Yeah,
everyone was just going about their business, playing goals, like, hustling. And here, all I wanted to do was just to slow down. That's
yeah,
all I wanted. I needed that. My soul was like, hello, like, you need to do something here. And it did. I mean, I did slow down because I came back and I went back to work, but then I got pregnant shortly after that. And it was an incredible experience to be pregnant into finally was when I was pregnant and on maternity leave was the first time I had not worked since I started working. So it was the first time that I had more than 2 or 3 or 4 days off or a week. It,
yeah,
it was insane. I'm like, okay, well, this is different. I'm like, I kind of like this, but life needed something different. But it was a really good experience to like slow down and enjoy just different projects. So it was, yeah, it was very meaningful for that. And then years later, my son and I went to Japan for his birthday. So we did that. And it was very meaningful to me to be there with him because of the
yeah,
last time that I had been there when I was there by myself. I was in such a different place. And it reminded me again that the bad moments that sometimes we feel are going to last forever, actually, they don't. And
yeah.
I'm
They
like,
are fleeting. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Isn't that a lovely full circle moment too?
Yes. It was so, so beautiful. We had such a lovely time. Yeah, I love Japan and I find it to be just such a grounding place, even though their dynamics with the culture, like culturally speaking, is just very different. But I find it to be a grounding place for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. I absolutely love Japan.
And we'll actually delve into a bit of that conversation further on in the episode. But another story which I found quite poignant that you did share with me earlier was about a story when you were a flight attendant and a passenger on the plane that you interacted with. Do you want to share that story? Because I think it's quite, for some of the listeners, they might resonate with it.
Yeah, I love that story actually. So back when I first started, I worked for two airlines. For my second airline, when I first started, I've always been caring about my passengers, but back then I was extra caring. Like I'm always caring. You will always find a good person in me, but I was extra caring and I used to carry like Christmas cards and birthday cards and stuff like that with me. And every now and then, when the passengers would come on the trip, if I started talking to them, they would share something. So this lovely lady, she looked just nervous, so you could tell that she was just like looking around. She wasn't sure. She didn't look like super confident about where she was going. So it's like, hey, can I help you find something? And then she was like, well, this is my first trip. And she said, like, this is my first trip without my children. And I was like, I didn't have children at the time, but knowing my mom, how she would say some things, I was like, well, that's so good. I'm so happy for you. And she was like, I've never traveled by myself before. And I'm like, I am so happy that you're doing this for yourself. So, we went through the flight, I checked on her and everything. And then I wrote a card and the rest of my crew and we signed that for her because we say, have a lovely, solo trip. I'm sure your kids are going to be waiting for you. And I'm sure they're going to be happy that you did this for yourself. And we just signed it and, gave her a few extra cookies with it. And towards the end of the flight, she was so happy. She gave me like a big hug. because it was such a moment for her. And I think it was super validating for her that we were also celebrating her and not just saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have left your children. Like, what are they going to do? At that point, it was her bravery to step outside and to say, I am going to do this for myself. I am
Yeah.
going to take this trip, however short or close it is. It doesn't have to be a mind blown like Bali experience. It doesn't have to be like that, but just taking that step was just so huge for her. I always remember that. And I thought about that when I became a mom because it's like you forget that you're even a person. I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
I like I said, like, I really loved it when you told that story for a lot of reasons. One, that you took that care and that time and acknowledged her and saw her and sort of encouraged her, which I think's so wonderful. And yet, that thing that there are so many women out there that have these firsts, that I know a lot of women that have actually traveled quite a lot, but it's always with their families. So when they
Yes.
actually go to do it by themselves, it's actually quite a different experience. I've noticed some of them even lose their confidence. I'm like, you managed your children and your husband, like you've got this, girl, you can do it by yourself.
Totally. I think it's also because, when you are taking care of other people, it's so easy to fill that role to the max. Like it's so easy to expand on that role because you're not looking inwards towards you. When you're traveling by yourself, there are different dynamics. You are doing also the logistics, but you are experiencing tiredness or hunger in a whole different way than when
Mm.
three other people say we're hungry right now. So so you start to listen to yourself in a different way. And it's uncomfortable if we haven't done that for a while, I think. At least for me, it was when I finally started
Mm.
to pay attention to myself. It made me uncomfortable to think that I was okay taking care of my needs, that it wasn't bad to take care of my needs. I'm like, no, like it's okay.
Actually, that's such a good point of that. I know I've seen, people feel guilt in that, but that being uncomfortable and maybe people don't, that bring it comes up as anxiety or other
Yes,
different feelings. But I think you've really touched on something there of being uncomfortable because that's what I see so often is very, very capable women who've got, lots of things going on in their life and have in the past. And then they step into this area of like solo travel and then they're like, I don't know what to do. But I think
exactly.
you really touched on it that because for the first time they're actually only having to think of themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, and not only that, I mean, you're starting to do that, but you start to realize how many people or how much conditioning you have to think that that's not okay.
Yeah.
And to me, that was one of the biggest piece because I'm a person that in order for me to be extra caring, I need to take care of myself. I mean, I can tell you that and it happens so often where I don't think I do, but I am reminded over and over again that if I am not happy with myself, with my creative work and the time I spend doing some things, I can tell you that I'm going to snap a lot faster and I am going to not be a happy person. Like I don't have the same capacity to take care for other people when I do
Yeah.
not take care of myself. And it has been a learning curve because it has felt selfish to do that, right? Like we function on this like parenting paradigm of like sacrifice yourself at all costs for your children. And you function on that and just people celebrate that. People celebrate that sacrifice parenting. And I'm like, I can't function like that. Because I already have functioned in that manner and it does not go well for anybody. You ask my husband, the man knows that when he can gauge where my moods are if I have not had enough time to do creative work for me. It's imperative that I do that for myself. And I still, 5 years. So we started homeschooling in 2020. So 6 years into this journey, it has been one of the biggest discoveries and continues to bite me in the butt sometimes because I think that I can like I can do one day of like really good creative work and be like okay for 3 more days. I'm like, no, I mean like it doesn't work like that, Juliana. So I do not. So it's something that I have to take care of. But but we feel guilty because we have been told that it's not okay to take care of our needs, that everyone else
Yeah.
has to be satisfied and done before we even think about it. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Yeah.
Even you stepping into the realm of like world schooling your children, I mean,
Yes.
even that's outside of the norms. Did you find any pushback when you sort of shifted to the way that you were going to parent that way?
No, not really. I feel like people that know me, it's just natural. Like,
Yeah.
we have I have a friend who is a French speaker, and over the summer her daughter went back to school and she mentioned like all these, like extravagant places like Paris, Amsterdam, like London, and the teacher called her in and said, I think we have a problem because your daughter is lying. And she said, like, about my friend was like, about what? So she said that she's been to all these places. And my friend's like, but she has. Like, she has been to all those places
Yeah.
within the last month or two. So it's not really natural for people to think about that. But in our industry, it's so very natural to go to New York for lunch and then come home or to go. We flew to Florida to get oranges one time because we live in Michigan and we don't get fresh, citrus in the middle of the winter. I mean, you have them, but they are not as fresh as they can be. So we flew to Florida to buy oranges. My husband carried them. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing that, but so it's just natural. So I think people that knew me and my parents, they were like, they knew. I didn't really know it had a name though because we had been doing it since before, but then now now I know it has a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it felt natural though for people though. I love it. I just love it so much.
And I think that sort of leads on to one thing that you really specialize in is, your human design. And
Yes.
and I'll touch on it a bit later, but you kindly did mine for me. It was quite insightful. But I think, I have read a little bit about human design and then obviously what you did for me. But I think it's really relevant when you're going through a life transition or you're looking to do a longer journey or something to actually bring in this human element that
Oh my
is
gosh.
human design, because what you just said, like how you need that creative time to like recharge your batteries, and even the way you're bringing up your children, it's all to do with your own bodily rhythm, really, isn't it? And I think that goes into every aspect and even travel. And I think you could have such a totally different experience if you sort of maybe view it for your eyes. Do you want to just touch on briefly what human design is for those that don't know? But then also how that could help someone design a really amazing transformative travel experience.
Oh my goodness. I am
Big
so happy.
questions. So yeah.
I am so happy, first of all, that it resonated with you, that what I sent
Mm,
kind of brought up some, pieces that felt helpful to you. What human design is a tool, is an ally for you if you want to use it. Imagine if you go on a trip, you have a backpack. We all carry the backpack. You carry your money, you carry your water, your umbrella if you think it's going to rain. So human design is a tool that you put in your backpack and you can pull it out whenever it comes out. It's a mystical system, yes. So it functions under your date of birth. Don't go shut the podcast off
mm,
yet. Just wait. just let me finish. So it uses your date of birth. It uses all of that, your place and your timing. The more exact timing you have, the better it will be. But it's not, if you just have a range, that's okay. It pulls a body graph, it's called. So if you think of an astrology chart, it pulls a body graph and it shows you how your energy is best used. That's it. It doesn't tell you how to do it. It's like a blueprint to who you are, and then you get to decide whether that resonates with you or not. It's
mm,
completely optional. I want to say that 95% of the people that share human design will tell you this: human design is not rigid. You can hear what someone says about you, but you don't have to take it. However, I'll tell you that it saved my life, and that's why I do it. Because without it, I will not be here, traveling with my children, world schooling, Like Gina said, even though I did it before, but there were different dynamics that could have stopped me from those moments. But also, I wouldn't be home educating my children either, and it would be very different if we didn't have these tools. So again, it's just a tool. What it will tell you, it will show you how you navigate the world in relation to everyone else. So if you think of energy, and if you think of beacons of sending and receiving energy, some of us are more sending energy. Others are more on the receiving end. So think of an empath, for example. That person is on the receiving end of emotions. So when you're at the airport and when you are traveling to places that are deeply charged with perhaps a war or some, historical places, you bet you that person is going to receive some of that. Not only
Yeah.
receive that, but it's going to amplify them. So from human design, there's the foundations is going to be finding out your type, which is there are only five of them. So I find it to be a little bit easier than astrology, right? Because it's only five types. You're either a generator, a manifesting generator like myself, a projector, a manifester, or a reflector. That's it, only five types. And they have a very simple way of defining how that type works, which is called strategy. And it's very simple. It's when you're in alignment and when you're out of alignment. Simple feelings, simple emotions, it kind of shows you. And then your authority, which is how you best make decisions. That I can tell you that if I had known that 30, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, it would have saved me thousands of dollars. Now, because I have an emotional authority, I cannot be excited about. I've been wanting to buy a greenhouse, right? But my rule now for myself for any kind of big purchases is 70. I have to wait 72 hours. So I can tell you the way I feel about that greenhouse. 24 hours ago, it was in the moment. Yes, I need it right now. 24 hours later, right now, I'm like, okay, I don't. I mean, I want it, but I don't actually need it. And there are other steps. Even if I have it right now, I couldn't put it up because there's like a ton of break where I wanted to go. So I need to clean that up. So decision making for me, it's very slow. And it doesn't always have clarity. And I think that was a huge piece for me to think about because I'm like, we are often told how you need to just go for it and just like, just like do it, right? Nike slogans and just
Yeah.
go for it, do it. I'm like, no, Juliana does not, I am not designed that way. And I am okay to wait because he has gotten me into a lot of trouble in the past. I mean, this house that we bought, my husband and I are both emotional authorities. We bought this house on the emotional high.
Yeah.
Now, talk about a struggle for the first year and a half when we were here. It was such a struggle until we learned through human design. We examined our decision making process to buy this house, and we were totally on the high. So, if you think of a tool, if you're starting to travel and to be more like step outside the box or making decisions, if you're at the junction of decision making, human design, even if you find out the piece, you don't have to have a reading, you don't have to go into courses, you don't have to do anything that you don't want because it is a tool to be on your corner,
Yeah.
and you are the most qualified person to do your decisions. But if human design is it's a helper, it's a tool to there that can give you little pointers of how your decision is going to be. And I think when I turned 30, so there's another piece of human design is called a profile. It's just a fraction looking number. It means something, but please do not get stuck in that. It's like you don't have to be an expert. But mine is a six. Mine is a six. I'm a 4-6. The six is what got me why I was having such an extra hard time through my Saturn return because I was so out of alignment. And the six is divided into three phases. Let's not get into details, but that was an intense time for me. And now, as I get closer to, I'm going to be 44 this year. As I get closer to 50, that it's called your Chiron return. And as you get closer to 50, for me, it's also going to be another transition process that if I'm not in alignment, it will feel extra hard. My
Yeah.
husband went through it a couple of years ago, and it felt extra hard for him. Like, there were some things that I think we could have done a little differently, but nonetheless, we knew that that was coming. I mean, I love it. I mean, I could talk all day on this. I just love it so much. So tell me, like, do you have any questions about what I just,
Yeah,
all of
well,
that I just said?
I think because, like, it was really interesting. So I had your human design guide that you gave me, and like you said,
Yes.
it's just a guide. But I have had other things done in the past, different modalities. So I have a healer guide in Bali, and he intuitively gets a reading. But again, he does the same thing. He has name and date of birth as part of what he does. And then he does this like timeline. And so I've had 3 of these done over different periods. And it's really funny. The timelines, and there's quite a big gap, the timelines are always the same. And I've had astrology charts done, very similar. And they also align with what you gave me. So I think it's
Okay.
also awareness. And I think sometimes we
Yes.
don't get this till we're older. And it's like, I suppose, hindsight when you can look back on different pivotal moments in your life and start
Yes.
realizing there are patterns. And
Yes.
then you go, and I think sometimes that can be an aha moment that there are patterns to your life, and then start recognizing their patterns. And like with the human design, I think we talked about it when you went to do this for me. There's the yogi, the doshas, which is
Yes.
similar,
Uh-huh. Freya Ayurveda.
yeah, a similar thing as well. And again, it aligned. Not everybody needs to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and
Nope.
do a workout and do 2 hours of social media before they go and do a full job and do this hustle. That's not for everybody. And
Exactly.
and it was really interesting. Mine, it said a lot about I need to be moving. I can't be in one place for a long time. And I was exactly the same with decision making as you are, which I found really interesting because, again, I'm quite an emotional person. And what you said really resonated with being an empath or just feeling emotions. I start just physically crying when I'm in some places. I go
Yeah.
visit these places and I'm just so overwhelmed with emotion. So it's
Mm.
recognizing that, and then you can work for it. And like I said, I think that's really great when if you're going through, especially women that are coming into their 50s, and that is a huge transitional time as well for
Yes.
so many reasons. So recognizing these patterns, I think, so important.
It is so fascinating though. What was the thing? So you're 4'6" too, like me.
I
Did
think so,
he
yeah.
did that resonate? No, so the 6 is divided into 3 phases. From 0 to 30, you're experimenting. From 30 to 50, they call it on the roof, which is like, so you're like, it's a period of reflection. It's a
Yeah.
very introspective. And then from 6 on, from 50 forward, you are a role model. So you're not telling people what to do. You're just sharing, hey, this is what I went through, this is what happened, and this is what I did.
And look where
I
I
feel like
am.
I was gonna say, I feel like that feels like the journey into what you're now doing, right?
And it talked about a lot about being a communicator. And it's really funny. My young life as a child, right through my high school years up into a young adult, I wasn't a communicator. So I was extremely shy, not confident around people. So it's really and I'm a Gemini as well. So we're supposed to be communicators anyway. But it's really interesting how it's literally has taken me nearly, I'd say, up until my 50s
Yeah.
to come into myself. So that's what, they say you're supposed to have your shit sorted out. You're
No.
supposed to know what you want to do. And, and I can honestly say it wasn't till my mid 50s
Oh,
that
yeah.
things started coming together.
Okay, I resonate with that deeply. And the thing they say about the 6 is like things just get better for us as we move into age, into different, stages of our time, of our numbers or whatever, things do just get better. But it's fascinating. Had I known that when I first started traveling, like for travel, you also have a completely open head, which is about inspiration. And I wonder how that shows up for you, because for me, so when I travel, what a inspiration that had, think about the chakra also, the top, it's about receiving inspiration from other people and amplifying it. So the shadow of that is thinking that every idea is for me to take action on, right? Like I was flying one time with a guy. They had a nonprofit for vets, veterans from, they had retired from the military and they couldn't find a life. And the man, so what I find out is when someone is very passionate about what they do, I have this like a massive amount of ideas and energy to think that I want to follow on their path. And that also relates to a different piece of my chart. But I'm like, okay, Julieta, you do not need to go and start a nonprofit for military people because you have never been in the military, girl. Like you have no idea you have no idea what those people have been through. You couldn't relate even if
Yeah.
you wanted to. So noticing that it's huge because it's not mine. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just not mine. So it just saves me time and energy. Do you resonate with the
Oh,
idea? Like the
yeah.
inspiration? Tell me more.
I was on a call with another guest that episode coming up, and she's done a tech startup, which is amazing. And we had a chat after the call, and I start coming up with all these. Oh, you could do this. These ideas I'm brainstorming for her. I'm like, this is not my project, but it's just I get from a good place, like I'm
Oh, totally.
inspired, and I
Totally.
and I feed off that, and it's like,
Yes.
oh, and then I just like come up with all these ideas, and yeah, I totally get it.
It is so fascinating to think because sometimes what happens when you're at the height of those ideas, you're like, and then you're in it, right? And then suddenly when that person leaves or you move into a different room, the energy changes. All of a sudden, you don't feel as excited, and then we feel disappointed because that was such a great idea. Like, so sad that I don't feel it anymore. But I'm like, you weren't meant to. We're actually quite the opposite. So we are a resource. We're a well of ideas. You are stuck in somewhere or in something, you call us and we will get you out of there. However, we just need ideas. As we're hearing people's problems, that's one of the shadows that we tend to try to fix stuff. So sometimes when I'm talking to
Yeah.
someone, I'm like, do you want me to listen or do you want suggestions? Because if you just want me to listen, then I need to prep myself to kind of shut that off for me. Because I'm naturally thinking when you're talking to me, I'm naturally thinking you should do this, you could do that. That sounds great. How about this? But if that person if it's not what you're looking for, then I need to like put myself into a different mode. I prepare myself, right? Because not everybody wants my ideas, although I
Oh
think
my
they're all
God. Yeah.
freaking fantastic.
That is something I really resonate with. It's like I've got to fix everybody's problems.
Exactly.
And it's like maybe, yeah, like you said, it's just that listening. And it's something I'm still working on. I think that's the other thing. You never stop working on yourself.
Never.
You're an unfinished project.
Yes, indeed. You are never, because if we did stop working on ourselves, it would be so boring. Because then
God,
everything
yeah.
would be like perfect. And I'm like, no, I mean, the joy is in this imperfection. But like I said, for me, human design, so this is what human design has done for myself, for my family, for my relationship with my husband. My husband and I have been together for 20 years, So there's a lot of it. There's a lot of pieces there that helped us. So it's a tool in your backpack and you can keep it set as much as you want or not. It doesn't matter because there are other modalities, like you said. There's astrology, there are the gene keys is very similar to human design. It's actually like the founder of the gene keys used to work with the person that brought human design. So they're very similar. It's just what resonates. Ayurveda, yoga, Pilates, whatever resonates with you. But to me, it's a tool that made me empower
Yeah.
about how I function as a manifesting generator. I remember I'm very multi-passionate. So I pivot, I try new things, and people don't always like that because we should just have one thing. You should just do the one thing. And I'm like, no, I used to feel guilty about it. And I'm like, I don't want to have to just do one thing. Why is that so? This so sounds so boring. No offense to people who love their craft, because I envy those people when you can get into so deep into something that you just love it so much. I'm just so powerful, but that's
Yeah.
not me. I mean, beyond human design, I mean, I mean, that's just not me.
I don't like, why I went like that is that's my partner because he's like, "Can you not just concentrate on one thing?" And I'm like, "No."
No, like life is just so beautiful. And I just found we were outside and I had three pieces of a cherry tree that someone gave me maybe about a year and a half ago. So I'm all about investigating how to carve spoons or bowls out of this tree. My husband's like, "You're going to do that." I'm like, "Yeah, I put the pieces in the garage now because they've been sitting outside. So they're like too wet, right?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna put them in the garage and have them dry, and then we'll see what happens next." And he's like, "Okay, 2 years will go by." No, probably not though. Maybe just a few months because I really want to do this. So I'm gonna
I
try
love
that.
it.
But so we'll see though. So yeah, so it just made me empowered about myself, about not really shaming myself for that need to pivot, right? For
Yeah.
that need to pivot and the need for independence. So I notice in your gut, you're a triple split. So what that means is that in your body graph, their islands they're not all connected. So you need more energy from other people so that your energy can flow
Yeah.
easily through your body. And I am a single definition. What that means is that my energy is somehow consistent, connected. So I'm a very independent people. And this is the piece that I have, often when I think about moms or feeling like we're selfish, this is a big part of me too, because not just as a mom, but as a person in the past, I was shamed for not thinking of other people. And what it is, people like us, we are just naturally independent. It's not that I don't want to be around people. I'm just not naturally needed of energy from other people to complete everything
Yeah.
within my body. So I see you nodding. How do you resonate with that? Because that's so interesting. I haven't really spoken to a triple split, so I love to hear your experience.
Yeah, it is interesting because I'm a bit of a contradiction. It's like I really I like having inspiring people around. When I mean like positive people. I
Of
feed off,
course.
and interesting people, and I think this is where travel has come in and fed that, because you meet so many different dynamics, and even doing this podcast, even talking to
Yes.
different people, that I always am quite a high. But in saying that, I can quite easily disconnect from people as well.
I love that.
And I quite want to be removed from them as well. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah. And that is such a beautiful way to know that and to like take to notice how that plays out, right? And
Mm,
not let it interfere or make you feel bad, because again, society condition is like we should be in groups. You should be when you travel, you should be like in this big group. And if you're traveling by yourself, especially as a woman, it's like, oh, what's wrong? What happened?
yeah.
Did you do something? Did something happen? We think of like Eat, Pray, Love, when she went this major trip, which it sometimes is like that, but it doesn't have to be like that. So, yeah, so I really love that though. So,
And I think too, like you said, I think a really important part of it is about what you said about decision making, because, I'm like you, so I need that 72 hours.
we
And
do.
I think we'll bring it in on another episode, your trip to Greece, because you were just talking off air about that. And I
Yes.
really want to share that, but we won't go into it. But I just think, when shit happens overseas, especially, and you're starting to freak out a little bit, just taking that step back and breathing and not rushing decisions. Because I think I had a funny story when I went into a massive panic. I thought I had my wallet stolen while I was in Madrid in Spain. I'd been
Oh,
on a walking tour, and I went to get my wallet out and I couldn't find it, and I got all rushed back to my hostel, stripped my bed down. I rang the bank, and I was going to Cuba, so I was like, how am I going to get money? I haven't got a card, and freaking out.
where was it?
In my bag still. And it's just there was lots of compartments, and I went to
Oh,
get a mint out because I was like, and it was there. So
oh,
I only had 3 days in Madrid, and I spent 1.5 of it panicking.
No, I can't. It's not funny, but I'm
It
just
is,
like
yeah.
thinking, but it's so easy to get into those panic modes, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, yes, my goodness, I'm so happy that I just had a friend, he was in Madrid with his family and they were getting out. They have 4 kids, 2 boys, they're like 8 or 9 and 2 twins. I'm sorry, a set of twins, two other children. So they were getting all the twins out, and the cab sped up with all of their luggage. And they're full time traveling families, so their whole
Oh,
life was in those backpacks, suitcases. Thankfully, what he said is like they had gotten out their backpacks with their computer and like their passports because they were going back to Thailand, I think. Yeah, so they had to, but they took everything. The cab took everything. Yeah,
good.
massive.
And I think like we will have that because there's so much I actually want to talk to you about so I think we do need to jump on another episode because
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
so much more to talk about, I think.
I love to. Yes, yes, but yes.
So we'll wind up this episode, obviously, how we started it as well, which is a pass the parcel question. So what is the one you have for our next guest?
Okay, so what I have for you is when things go wrong, like Gina just mentioned about her wallet, the story that came to me or why I got this question is because I was in Greece. I was on the other side of the world and I was trying to get back and my credit cards were getting declined, because the bank thought it was fraud and I'm just like trying to book us tickets and ferries and whatever. And I felt myself like Gina just like panicking. So when things go wrong, first, what was the story? What is the mantra or ritual or rhythm or words? What do you say to yourself? What do you do to bring you back to center and to say, you are going to be okay? You're going to be guided. You are going to get out of this one. Life is going to be good. But, and what is the story that brought that ritual now, into your traveling tools, you could say.
Yeah.
Because God, I knows I needed one back a few weeks ago when I was there, just panicking because how am I going to get back? And how am I going to get these children back? Until I had to like almost like slap myself. I'm like, okay, just calm down. You are going to be okay. I had people, I had resources, but it just felt like I didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, excuse me, like, no. So, yeah. So, what is the mantra that you follow when things are falling apart? And what was the story that got you there?
I love that question. And it's a food for thought for our listeners too. If you haven't got a mantra or something you use, what is one you could use? So I think we delve into that in another episode. But I've got the quick fire round. I'm just going to ask you about 4 questions. So just the
Okay.
first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
What is one country you would go back to again and again?
Greece.
Interesting.
Yes.
Oh, and this is actually a really good one because it ties into literally what you were just saying. What is your best wellness routine for travel?
So many. Journal. Bring a journal. Bring an
That's a
empty,
good one.
bring a journal. Yes.
Oh, and this one I already know the answer to. Backpack or suitcase?
Suitcase. Of course. Definitely not a backpack. I mean, I have them, all of it, but I'm a suitcase type of person. Yes. Yes, definitely.
Julieta, it's been like I have loved this conversation and I'm definitely going to have you back and I hope you will come back because
I
I've
am
got so
so
many more
excited.
conversations we
Yes,
can
I
have.
love our conversation so much. So definitely I will be back. I love your questions and I love our topics for sure. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
having me.
So I'm going to put how to get hold of Julieta and all her resources below for anyone. And how can people get hold of you too if they want to reach out?
Usually you can go to my website, The Unschooling Lifestyle. My work centers around
Right.
helping families transition into home education through the lens of human design. And yeah, there, you can send me an email, my podcast. I have a podcast and I am slowly transitioning out of the social media platforms, but we do have a YouTube channel that you can go and check out. And my personal Facebook, you send me a message there. I will answer you and tell you all kinds of things if you want to know. So yeah.
Please get hold of Julieta. It'll be well worth it. So thank you again. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
And remember, everyone out there, it's never too late to unleash your wanderlust. Till the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Please share the love by liking, commenting, or subscribing, or join us in our Facebook community.